Hello and welcome back to the Obojima Podcast. My name is Jeremiah, this is Ari and Adam, and we are the writers of Obojima. You are jumping in on our weekly writers meeting. We do this once a week or twice a week sometimes, and we get into it. We talk about the things that we've written in the past, we've talked about things that are yet to come, and in this week we are going to do just the writers meeting for a little old steelwork town called Toggle up in the mountainside. It is the industrial town that all the metalwork comes from in the island of Obojima. And we're going to jump into it. So hop on down and enjoy our conversation as we talk about Toggle. So let's just get into it. Why that goofy ass name? I'm kidding. I picked the name.
Comes from an old family.
Yeah, there you go.
Toggle family.
Well, maybe that early on there's a river that comes down through Toggle, and there is a giant lever that switches the river and diverts it to different things, to run mills and stuff, to hammers and power hammers and stuff.
That's so cool.
And it's just, that's the Toggle. And
All
then
right.
after enough time, the industrial sort of workshops eventually were just like, they've got enough people there and they're like, hey, we can make a village. And then some old timer goes, I think we should call her Toggle.
I guess it's cooler than the Toggle family.
I love that. That was great.
Well,
You should join an improv class.
that should be radder.
No, I actually do really love that. So yeah, Toggle, the things that we actually know about Toggle. It is a mining town, but it's also if Tidewater is, or not Tidewater, but rather Sky-Kite Valley is full of engineers who work on flying machines and contraptions like that, Toggle is much more utilitarian, I would imagine. Machining and working steel, we express the concept of there being mine carts that kind of shift all around the village to deliver goods. They probably have a decent sized mine that they're tapping directly into the mountain to pull from.
Yeah, maybe a couple mines.
Yeah.
Maybe there's different kinds of metals that they're making out there. They've got a copper mine and a tin, and iron, and and then there's like a smelting area where there's like all this fire and everybody walking around there is all covered in soot and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's like the smithing area where that raw metal then gets taken down and they're smithing it. And then there might be like a fabrication area shop where they're putting it all together, or they might just ship out the raw stuff and let the fabricating be done, in the different areas. So.
Which also, it could be that a majority of the town just is raw, like material gathering.
Mm-hmm.
But we had expressed earlier that Holly from the Coastal Divers Lodge might be interested in working with an engineer, working with a craftsman in Toggle to generate like a propeller or something to that effect that she needs, or some big thing that she needs to patch up and replace the broken side of the Pontoise, the swordfish submersible.
I mean, does that mean if it's really important that she goes to this place, is the submersible made from a special material? It's not just like this is made of steel or whatever. Something.
Yeah, like iron will rust within like a day.
Right.
Once you put it in salt water, it's the toast. So.
Well, it also could be that the standard submarine is made out of like wood and metals.
Fun.
But Holly is preparing to do an excursion to the corruption, so she wants something special.
Neat.
So it's not just like, we're not just going to repair it. We're going to repair it, but we're going to, line it with lead and copper or something like that.
Sure. Magically.
Yeah, exactly.
There could be like a forge master or an alloy maker that is like a magician, or a Dara that's an alloy maker. It's like, and just knows from a glyph like how to forge an alloy.
And that's really cool because, steel is just, layered, especially in sword making, you layer steel over and over again to get something really strong and pliable and flexible. And so it could be this magic steel plating done with Dara, where they put a glyph on each thing and then fold it over itself and then put another glyph.
Freaky.
And so now you're making layered. How strong is this metal? There's 40 glyphs in it. 40 glyphs.
That's measure.
That's the unit of strength. Yeah,
that's a 5 glyph sword right there. It's
that's really cool. I love that.
That's neat.
Yeah. So every glyph Adara adds in. So that's cool. So maybe that's one of the, to jump right into a character, maybe there's like a master steel worker who who build the highest. I mean, they don't craft anything. They just craft steel, and the steel itself is imbued with glyphs, these magical glyphs to kind of
have these, like,
give it a little
ingots.
something.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's
I really
neat.
like that.
I'd love to have like a team of the big Dara and the little Dara. And the little Dara is the one with the giant hammer.
Yeah, the big one's working the bellows.
Big one's working the bellows. It's like more fire.
That's really cool. I love that.
It's
okay,
fun.
so who are these two characters? Let's explore these characters more. So we have a little Dara. We have the smaller red Dara who, or no, is it blue?
Those red ones are smaller.
Yeah, the red ones are small. Okay, cool. You think I'd know, considering that we made the world.
There's a lot of art.
Yes.
So we have a red Dara who is like the master crafter, and we have a blue Dara who's that assistant. It could be that the red Dara is the bronze, like the strength behind it, like the one who folds and is like skilled in the metal crafting, and the blue Dara is the arcane, like the magician, who like is there to, they work the bellows and they rush over and they implant the glyph and then walk away, and then they fold it and do it over and over again. Which is cool.
Which one is the Dara with has the orbiting?
Yeah, the orbiting, like the magic that they're called.
Because I wonder like if that somehow kind of is incorporated into like their whole like steel making process.
Yeah.
Right. Are they smiting metal with those things?
Yeah.
Like, is it but I still have the image of the hammer. I want it to be that visceral,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's fun.
Well, that could be the way they heat metal. They're like using fire bolts, these hovering fire bolts to like hit the metal till it's white hot.
It could be that these characters wandered in, at some point, I imagine this a long time ago, this place was established. And then once they kind of got to a certain level where they're making, the steel and all that, these Dara just kind of walk into town and then they just build a shop, and they kind of maybe even don't even tell anybody anything. And people are just like, oh, what are you fellers doing? And then they just set up their forge, and then they're just like, now we're ready to work.
Yeah. They're a staple there now.
Yeah. And everybody's like, okay. And then they just make these phenomenal, steel weapons, or they're making, they could also make like these strange. There's an
artist out on one of the islands in the San Juans or something like that, and he makes these sculptures that are like windmills or something like that. But they're like these sacred geometry patterns, and they're really phenomenal. I could see these, like they're just making stuff like that. Like then they can make stuff to order if like they think it's a worthy cause. And I think maybe Holly's project, like the Pontue, like that's something they're like, okay. And the villagers are, whenever this team decides that they're going to make something, the villagers are all kind of like, ooh, because traditionally in the past it's been like whatever they produce is like mind-boggling.
Yeah, I like the idea of the stuff that they create just being in the town. Like that you might have these big sculptures that they've done, and so now that's part of like the visual identity of the place.
Yeah, it's cool. Or like a long time ago, somebody made a golem, and they built this steel golem, and then it just walked off, and it's wandering around Obojima.
Yeah, some variant.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Like you could encounter pieces of work from this team, and maybe they have a Dara glyph as their stamp.
Assuming in this story hook, because now we're pairing hooks together, which is interesting. So you go to Holly. Holly says, "I need this thing." You go to them. Is it just a simple, we'll get you the metal, or we'll forge this, nose tip for you, or whatever, Holly ends up doing?
Can never be simple.
Or is this in addition to the adventure hook? Do they need something? I don't know if collecting steel is necessarily super interesting, but it could be that
Maybe it's you've got to get ore from lost mine, like or when you tell them what you need, they kind of like sit and sort of telepathically confer amongst each other, and then one of them says, we need steel or we need metal that can only be found near the summit of Mount Obora, and go up there and you'll see like these bats or these birds that are circling this one area.
Yeah.
And wherever you see that's where there'll be a crevice. And then, so you go up there and you see that, and then you go in this crevice and you look down, and then you've got to go fight stuff or, climb down or face some kind of peril.
It could also be that, you show up and they're like, yeah, we would gladly take this, task or, take on this order for you. But the mine has just dried up, right? Like if you were here a month ago, this would have been doable. But like, and so now you might have to go as part of this, join some of the miners and like an expeditionary group to go into Mount Arbora and find another vein of this or whatever, however mines work.
What if, to add a third option, what if they're like, oh, you'll need this special type of steel or something like that. It's very rare, very, very rare. In fact, it's incredibly hard to find. We do have some in that iron golem that we made, but he's been wandering around in the forest for 25 years. So we have no idea where he is. It's in his head.
Yeah. And they're like, do you remember the deactivation word? Like, no, I don't remember it.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like Klaatu something. But it could be like that. Or it could be, like in the disease or, in the cure is the disease kind of thing. Like it could be that they're like, if we're going to build you a ship that can go into the corruption, we need some corruption. And so you've got to go get a
work corruption into it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
An old spoonful of corruption helps the medicine to go down.
There's a pin. Yeah. No.
That's cool. Now you have like several things that can bring you, or the things that you have to do in order for them to make the thing.
It also could just be that they're like, well, we don't know what we need, so we're going to test metals against the corruption. So bring us some corruption, and we'll just like dip some metal in. Ooh, that didn't work.
You also might have like word gets out that they're making this thing, and before it's delivered, somebody steals it, or somebody,
or the town doesn't want you to come in with the corruption.
Yeah,
they're like, hey, you can't come in here. So the mayor gathers some people together, and they stop you from entering.
Who would be interested in this would be Venomous Rex. Have we told you about Venomous Rex yet?
What is that?
So Venomous Rex is the placeholder name for the counterpart for the lionfish king.
He is the counterpart to the deep sea corrupted fish.
Okay.
So it's this viper fish that's skeletonized called Venomous Rex. And so Venomous Rex is, he's no dum-dum. He knows like his days are numbered, and so are his people. And so he's kind of migrating around from the eastern side of the island to the western, and he's, muscling in on the Lionfish King's territory, causing a great deal of consternation. And so, but he knows that he's got to solve this problem regardless. Mm-hmm. So if he gets wind of it, so like what you're talking about, Ari, he might be like, we're going to go and march inland, like, at great sort of like uncomfortable cost to fish folk, because they're probably not liking overland journeys so much.
Yeah.
And we're going to steal that stuff. We're going to wait until they perfect it, then we're going to steal it. And then you have a viperfish folks assault.
Which is actually kind of cool if you are not actually part of commissioning this metal. But instead, you encounter, some of Venomous Rex's, folks who have this, and so when you encounter them, like, what's going on here? Or that you find out that are going to steal this thing. So this is how if you don't already know Holly, this might be a good way to meet Holly and enter that part of the story.
Yeah.
What about what is Venomous Rex? That's gonna take a second for me to get to it. To say it casually without me smiling.
You should smile. It's great.
I'll call him Rex for short.
Rex.
What if, because you bring up a good point, fish folk often not wanting to move on to land too often. What if there is like subordinates, like followers of them, of Venomous Rex, who are human?
Yeah.
And so the immediate thought is, what if one of the initial group of rangers that get corrupted, one of them survives, and now it's like he serves Venomous Rex.
Oh.
Like maybe he was dying, and Venomous Rex, who might have who was first affected before, the corruption gets on land, the corruption's in the ocean side. Yeah. It's probably affecting the fish folk first. Maybe Venomous Rex has a way to slow it. So he like
stonefish venom.
Yeah, pours some stonefish venom over this ranger and saves him.
He's like, just a drop.
Yeah, and now the ranger's working just to get more of this venom. Yeah. Because like when he goes a month without having it, he's like he feels it kind of like
hollowing of
his... Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or because the corrupted rangers have like a pattern that slowly moves up their body.
Yeah.
And so like it starts to grow, and he's like, I need more. It's cool.
My time is short.
So maybe that's one of the NPCs in this
like
in Toggle.
In
is this ranger who's maybe the ranger intercepted the initial message from Holly to the Steelwork town.
Yeah.
Because that would make sense, right? These fish folk are very familiar with Holly's family.
And also a lot of these corrupted rangers may have been at one time courier brigade. Mm-hmm. So they know about all the routes where messages get transported. So
it could be that this person's waiting in this town, assuming that Holly's going to come herself. Maybe their intention isn't even to like they don't want the steal. They could just be like, I'm waiting for Holly to come, and I'm going to kidnap Holly and bring Holly to this person. But when Holly never shows up and you show up instead, the opportunity changes, and now they're looking for something else.
Yeah.
Now they're going to steal this steal.
That's a really fun choice for the DM, because the DM can play that ranger in a number of different ways. Like it could be like, is the ranger going to try to ingratiate themselves with the party? And are they going to be able to pull it off? Like, are they going to be like, kind of shaking every now and then when the corruption starts to move? Like, or the DM might be like, you've got a little vial of stonefish venom, and every now and then you just see him take a little like sip of it, and then kind of like, like.
Well, if you do something like the golem that they have to hunt down the golem, the ranger knowing this, hiding out, trying to like get this information, maybe he's spying on the party, might go out into the forest and due to their skills track the golem down and then assist the party.
Yeah.
They might the party might show up and the ranger might say something to the effect of like, this golem attacked my cart. I'm going to try to take it down. Like, introduce themselves as like someone who's been accosted and, assist them in taking this thing down just to help further their objective of getting this medal or something.
We're going to have to player ban this episode because if they hear about this coming, we're like, if your DM does this, you'll know what the trick is. But yeah,
that's really cool stuff. I love that. I really love that.
Yeah, that's really neat.
So I love that storyline. Let's jump into more about this town. So go ahead. We have mines, and mines always, monsters. Mines always mean monsters. It's true. So what cool monsters could be here? Do you want like D&D, like Ankhegs and Umber? Well, Umber Elks are probably off the hospital. Yeah, but sorry. I want something fun and something unique. I want what's a cool Obojima monster that exists in this space? So something that is. It could be something that is attracted to ore. Something that's why they're down here. Maybe they weren't down here, but they moved into the mines. Maybe it's something that is like a pest that they constantly have to drive out of the mines because every time they go in and these things keep sneaking in here to maybe to use them as like to hatch their young and stuff like that. So what about a spirit that's like this giant kind of bulbous, I'm thinking of like a toad, but if it was like stark black
or something like that, and talismans and like kind of like a setup of almost renown and praise to it, and you have to pay homage to it before you enter the mine. Like it's you go in and you can mine in certain areas, but the moment you pass through this one section, you have to stop and you have to go into its domain. And maybe it loves slag. So it loves like the extra material. The slag is what you like when you're forging. There's
like
slag that comes
it.
off of it, and so like they'll bring in slag, and if you don't have slag, it'll take coal, and it just like it just eats it constantly.
If you don't have coal, it'll take you.
Yeah, exactly. But no, like it could be that it's partially the spirit of these caves, and maybe not an elder spirit, but close to it, and it's maybe a little finicky. So it's like if it's not happy, it's caused cave collapses. It's it's crushed mines. Maybe if it gets angry and it turns bright red, and all of the steel, like all of the minecart, all of the lines for the minecarts all melt. They all pool into hot metal and then harden, and so people have to go and like refix them. And when it's like it does stuff to potentially kill people, but mostly just to like show that it's angry and it wants more offerings.
I could see miners like calling them like slaggers, or I don't know if that's a swear word in some like in England or something. You bloody slagger. But
if it is, bleep it out.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
And we're also sorry.
We're we don't know. I plead ignorance actually.
But yeah, that's cool. I could see that, like one of those things existing. I also like the idea of maybe if we want to take that same concept and kind of move it away, you could almost have like move away from that, but same sort of shape, almost like a bulbous stone balloon that's like red hot in the center, and it has like a face, and its mouth opens up and it floats like at the tops of the ceilings and things like that. Just something that looks like if you imagine like a bubbling, like if you've ever seen rock cooling, and like it kind of bubbles up and makes a bubble and then hardens in that bubble shape. Like if that turned into a monster that was alive.
Oh wow! It would be interesting if like open mouth, it's all full of crystals.
It's all full of crystals or hot lava still. Yeah. I don't know why flying is cool, but it just is interesting for those things to exist. Like maybe they like eat the stalagmites or tights or whichever one is on the top of the caves.
Stalactites are on the top.
Stalactites. I was right the first time. Yeah.
They hang tight.
Yep.
That's how I remember it.
That's
They could be magnetic. They're like they kind of roll around on magnetic sort of lines. They could also like have
if they were magnetic, it could be something the miners bring with them.
Oh,
are these like get a
little
hounds or whatever? Like this is their version of a hunting hound or like whatever.
An ore sniffer.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Like maybe they have like you could have like a bottle, like a little electric bunny. Like I'm thinking like the dust bunny, if you remember that art piece, but it's an electric version, and it just they capture them because they're all over the place, and then you release one and it hops in and hits the wall and dissipates. And you're like, oh, there's metal there.
There it is.
There's ore there, which is kind of cool.
That's neat. I like something that is very dangerous, and it like sings or something. And so you're in a deep dark cave, and then all of a sudden you hear it, and you just hear it echoing, and you kind of, because when you're in a mine, you can't really tell where the sound is coming from sometimes.
That would be creepy.
Yeah, I guess the thing, like you have your miners down there, and everybody's got their picks or stuff like that, and then all of a sudden, they don't quite know it, but suddenly they're all their strokes happen in unison, like they're all keeping a beat of some kind, like a rhythm, and it's like, oh, there's something here.
It could be something that's controlling minds, or it could be like something that releases spores, that things are invisible and you're breathing it in, you don't know it.
Well, we kind of mentioned something. What if there's like a named drum belly down here that like uses the echoes of the picks and like kind of like amplifies some of its abilities? Yeah. And maybe that's a thing the miners do. They're like, you never, you're always off off put. You never hit in a pattern. If you're making a beat.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the opposite of what standard, you imagine chain works. I'm thinking, oh, brother, we're out there. Yeah. Where you're trying to do it up time of the song.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite. You don't sing in the mines and you don't, because you don't want to protract the drum belly.
Yeah. It just like starts to creep down.
Well, it's a shame because the acoustics are wonderful.
Dude, exactly. That's also cool for a bard. Like if a bard comes down and starts singing and everyone's like, you could get this guy out of here. It's got to be all off a rhythm. I like the monster tangent because there's clearly, dangers in the mine, which is great. And we kind of mentioned like this spirit type creature, which could kind of be an NPC if we wanted to. They could assist the party. It's kind of not necessarily the village, but in the mines section. What are some other characters? What are some other NPCs in this space?
I had one other thing on the mines that just occurred to me. So we have first stage technology. Is there anything we want to do about when people delve into the earth? Is there, we basically talked about how first stage tech is just kind of like around.
Yeah.
So is there something down here that we want to feature? Have like some aspect of first stage tech we want to feature, or first stage tech is the 1980s vibe technology. Is there something there that we want to highlight?
Well, it could be that all of these carts and things like that, like maybe this mine was found, not made.
Yeah.
So it's cool. Like all of these mine carts and the contraptions and the toggle.
Yeah.
All of that existed prior to them showing up. And so then it's like what is this? They learn how to operate it,
I mean, is it part like hydroelectric dam kind of thing? Like, is there some kind of like system where this mine could be lit in a certain part, whether it's through, dam spinning a generator or like a spirit operating it?
I think
it's interesting.
I think it could be cool if,
like some of it, like not all of the mine, but
if part of it, I mean, if it was operating, then either it's operated through someone enchanting it with like jolt to keep it going constantly. But they could also have little like pest spirits, like the electric bunnies or whatever, could also, you take a light bulb, like, if all of there's already lanterns probably left behind from first stage tech. So like they put a couple of those, they put a bunny in each one of them. And
I'm just imagining like the movie I want in my head, excuse me, is you have your miners going into the mine and they have a, incorporeal, companion spirit, one of them. And as they're going, it occupies, the light bulb above them. Yeah. And as they go, it just jumps from light bulb to always like keep it lit where they are. Yeah. That'd be kind of cool.
That's cool.
That's fun.
I had the image of like, the miners all get suited up. They all walk into the mine to the point where it starts to get dark. And then there's all these like racks of lanterns and they just grab a lantern and a little spirit goes, jumps in.
Yep.
So maybe it's less of like a pest that they catch and release, and more so like all of these miners have the same spirit companion.
Yeah.
And maybe these spirit companions all have really like simple desires where they're like, we want like a copper coil. They like to sleep in copper coils or something like that. So like you make me a coil and I'll work for you or something like that.
Every miner has like this little like cylindrical belt, it's all coiled copper, and then they just pop it out and the thing hops in there.
Yeah.
And then it hops out. It could hop into their like a headlamp.
Oh, that's great.
That's cool.
And so
the idea of talking to the spirit that's in your headlamp is really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so already that leads me to the fish out of water NPC builder, which is, what if one of the miners doesn't have an electric bunny? It's common, and this one has like a flame spirit or something like that, and everyone's like, okay, Tommy's weird because he doesn't, that these things are everywhere. He could have, made a deal with one of them, but instead he chose to pick something different, or like a water, a spirit that's not useful in the mine. And that's like a fun, like, he might be looked down on, or they might be looked down on in a bit.
I mean, this could kind of pull into the conversation then with like, what is the structure of the village or the town or something? Is it a town that's in harmony? They know their jobs, they're all getting along great? Or is it a town where there's, a tyrant who's running it all, and he's got this, or she's got this, this real like intense spirit that's like a fire being that's just like, and they're imposing their will on everybody.
I think for me, my initial thought was it's more like a gold town in the sense that like all of these miners don't work for like an organization. They work for themselves.
Like
and they go
Deadwood.
and they come back out and they like, oh, this is what I've collected. And they maybe they're not a forger. So they'll take it and they'll have it refined. And that person's that they have their own life in their own house, and they forge it and they give them the ingots, and maybe the payment is like, you brought in a bunch of ore, and from that ore, I forged it, or I, refined it into 10 ingots. I'm going to keep 3 ingots for myself. You get the other 3, and then you get the slag that you can feed to the thing. And and that's like payment is just ingots and things like that. It's almost like they have their own currency set within here.
Is it like you have a main street and there's like stalls for all these different miners? Some miners are just selling you raw goods. Some miners are actually selling you refined metals and minerals. And some miners are actually making objects. There's artisans.
I kind of like the idea of, because it's on the mountain, it's a little uneven, that it's almost kind of leveled like a if you imagine for a second the inversion, like if you took a Phillips head screwdriver or Phillips head screw, which has like a weird pocket, but you blew it up to the size that a village could be built into it, and so it like has 4 channels that lead towards this bottom flat part, and then it kind of raises up at an angle, and they're kind of built up on the walls, and there's 4 major paths. One of them leads to the mine, one of them leads over Mount Abora into the land of hot water, and the other ones lead to the Gale Fields, and the third one into the Brackwater wetlands. So each path kind of leads off to a different section, and then these buildings are just kind of like on different platforms, kind of built all around sporadically. As an interesting way of doing it. It's almost like it's built into a cavern, and so there's many layers of,
and you could see like striations and geological stuff because it's carved into the
That's cool, because then you'd have like bridges crossing that channel.
Yep.
And so then now you have this kind of like layered feel to it.
Exactly.
It could have a vibe of like Kowloon in Hong Kong, where it's like these just like alleyways of buildings, and then there's all this stuff like going in between.
That's cool. If you do huge stacks with things going over, you'll walk into a single street, and maybe the shops are just big enough. There's no extra space needed. So one alleyway might have 14 shops in it, and they're all a 5-foot by 10-foot building that it's one worker with a grinder and a forge, and that's
And that means that's a lot more activity here than I initially thought. It's making me rethink it. That means like this is a pretty dense pocket of people who work here or live here. That's interesting.
Or do we want to spread it out? Like, do we want to make it a densely populated thing with there's a lot of stuff going on? Or do we want to like keep that sort of canyon Phillips head thing, but like there's just not as much people? I don't know.
I think if you can make it feel really busy but still keep the footprint small. So it's like there's only 200 people here, so it's not huge. But it's so compact onto itself that when you're in this like one city square block, which maybe that's as big as the town is, it's just dense, and everyone lives in their shop, and everyone has their own space, and maybe there's 50 miners, and there's 50 miners, and there's 50 people that work in the space there, and then the rest of the 100 people are just travelers that come in and out.
So you could also play it where this is a town, like you said, like a gold town, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be past the boom. So you could have this place that it's built densely packed, but they're not all occupied, right? So like you have all of these things. You might have some places where somebody has lived there in 30 years or whatever or more, and so this is just, it's a little bit past the boom. Like the mines are sprawling already. So that's really cool to me as a DM, because I love sprawling cave networks. Again, monsters. And
unexplored.
Yeah. And so I think that could be interesting, especially if there is that talk that like these mines might
run out soon. So if the idea that, you mentioned they're not working for a company, they're all kind of independent miners. Do they have to get their rights essentially, from the town, like their mining rights? Do they just kind of go in, and are there fights over the mines, all that kind of stuff?
Could be that like this, traditionally, and because of, maybe superstitious reasons or whatever, it's like anybody who comes to want to make a claim, there is this NPC in the village that is the spirit, always been there. And you go up to it and you say, I want to mine this kind of stuff. And then it just sort of silently starts leading you. And then it just points. And there's an area, either like an existing mine or a place, and you're that's where you dig. And it's like, it's kind of like Mount Aurora will decide where you mine,
Which means there are going to be nefarious people who might try to waylay people in the caves themselves, or, who try to sneak past this spirit and just start mining wherever, which is cool. I like that.
That could be
reactions. Yeah.
But I like the kind of the weird, like sort of that connection with like Obojimas, with like this idea that Obojima is a spirit, and that there is a,
not necessarily our persona to it, but that they do like think of it as a thing, whatever that thing is. I don't know.
It could be more subtle in the sense that, let's say like 4 miners go into a section and they all start mining in the same area, and one person hits it big in that area, and the rest of the miners just have this understanding that they're like, oh, this is this person's area. Like they hit the vein first.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna leave them be. We're gonna go find somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like even though they're, it's kind of like bikers in the sense that, like, from the outside it's very wild and they kind of don't follow the standard rules, but within their own sect of people, there are rules that you kind of follow. Yeah. And if you don't follow them, then, the rest of the miners, will be like, oh, what's wrong with you? You can't do that here.
Yeah. You're found unconscious in a mining cart.
That could also be the punishment too, is like, Johnny went and mined, Carrie's section of the area, and as punishment, give us all your stuff. Yeah. And they take all your stuff, they take all your ingots, they take all your gear, and they go and feed it to the spirit.
Oh,
you're gonna start over.
Yeah.
What you said is, they leave you unconscious in a mining cart. It made me think of, there might be the way they run you out of town is there might be this rail that goes just some distance
and then ends abruptly.
And they put you in and they send you out of town. Yeah. It's like,
or it's like goes down the side of the mountain and there's a jump. Just like
it could be funny too, where they always send you out with a bang. So the night before, they're always like everyone's celebrating you, and they're all like, have a good one. They're all getting you a drink. And so like, you get super drunk and sloshed, and then they put you in a minecart and they shoot you out into the woods.
It's like, it's the walking the plank.
Yeah.
Miner's version
it's
of
the walking the plank, but it's done with some jovialness and some celebration. Like, it was good knowing you, buddy.
Yeah.
And then you take it on the chin. You're like, I had a good time. I guess I'll go be a carpenter.
It's a good warning if you're drinking too hard. It's like you'll end up in a minecart.
Yeah. You're getting toggled. Don't show your face in toggle again.
I like all of that. I like this, but I like this concept that toggle might be more a little rough and tumble compared to some of these other locations.
Yeah.
It's on the mountain. People that visit there are a little more crass, and it might be a little more, compared to Okiri or Sky Kite Valley, which is very like, like maybe colloquially, like the town, like everyone calls it Toggle, and it's called the Steelwork town. But like people are like, oh, you don't got a Toggle. There's no festivals there. Like, like they're just like,
they got their minds to business.
They're drunkards, and they like to mine, and they're rough, and they keep their companions in glass coils and glass jars full of coils. Like, what's wrong with them?
The companions are like well looked after. They have exactly what they want. They're simple, not like these complex. I was thinking about, do you ever watch the TV show Chernobyl?
Yeah.
The miners. And when they go there, they're all like the business suit muckety mucks, and they go to the miners, and they're like, "You guys are the only ones who can bail us out of this mess." And the miners like, "All right," and they're just awesome. They're just like heroes and no nonsense, and they're just straight shooters, and they don't take any like all this highfalutin nonsense. And they go in, and basically they strip off, and they just go into the mine because it's hot. And they have to do this incredible, and I love to like base generally what the vibe is of Toggle. And those
It's really good.
like
I like that.
We need some of those NPCs.
yeah, those NPCs are great. Like that scene is just that whole episode. Watch on that series. It's so good.
And that's also cool too, because then if you meet someone out in the world who's like that, you spend some time as a miner?
Yeah.
How'd you know?
His name said I was 8.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've got a cool spirit companion or spirit NPC. We've got some general ideas for the miners, and we have a cool steelworker duo. What are some other NPCs that might be here? I think immediately based off of like if we do get people drunk and send them off on a minecart, then we should have like a bartender who
Yes.
That's
who
great.
can be the
The Toggle Tavern should be legendary
Yeah.
in these parts. Like if you really want to go and just like have a great time.
I like
Yeah,
that.
Work hard, play hard.
Ooh, there could be, because the coins here, the copper buds, so they're tiny little they look like little flower buds. Maybe there's a game of darts there where you flick a flower bud into like a board or something across
That's
the
cool.
way.
Yeah.
That
I also
could be
love
fun.
like they could be like really amazing singers. Like they could like if they're like famous, like I'm thinking of Welsh miners. Like Welsh people are traditionally just like amazing singers, and they're also amazing miners, and that whole sort of kind of cultural note of these people really that's sort of how they let off steam, and how they also like the idea that they don't have festivals, but maybe they do. Maybe they have one festival. Like there's this Welsh festival called I think it's called the Eisteddfod, and it's a big singing festival. It's a music festival.
That's cool. I like the idea of because that would definitely be a very interesting tone shift. Because if you're in the bar, if you go to the town, you're in the bar and everyone's singing and everyone's having a good time and they're all like a little rough around the edges, and you witness someone get toggled off into the woods on a minecart, and you're like, whoa, this town's crazy. And it's bustling in the sense that it's very compact and they're all layered on top of each other. And then you go and venture into the mines, and the moment you get into the mines, they all kind of like stop and they like turn, and they like there's just this air of silence, and then they just stop talking as they're in the mines. And it's like, whoa, this is weird. Like this is especially if they're so jovial and they're so singing outside, they're so into song. It almost is a little tragedy that they can't sing in the mines.
That makes me I want to hear mining, like the equivalent of like a shanty, right? There are these mining songs. I know we talked about like the drum belly and stuff like that, but like I really want to hear that. Like that's great. Like I mean, there's that tragedy, right? That this is what they're supposed to do, but if this place is infested with a particular drum belly or several, then it's okay, they can't do it. But if you do away with those drum bellies, lure them out or dispatch them, then being able to hear those miners sing down there again would be pretty cool.
Well, you could also
cool.
set it to a certain emotion. So maybe there is a song that you sing in there, but it's like you sing it after someone passes, or like a cave collapse, or someone sings it as like you sing it as you die. Like oh, like I'm gonna be gone, or like that something's coming after me. Maybe it's seen as like a farewell type thing.
I love this whole thing of like echolocation and sonar, and
I'm just wondering if speech might be really muffled down there, but singing, this might be part of this, I don't know, supernatural element of the caves, but singing carries. So you actually have to communicate through song.
yeah, I think of like the, I forget which culture it is that whistles from canyons. I think it's like in Finland or Norway or something like that. And they whistle and you can hear it from miles away. And there could be this sort of like, singing that they do down in these caverns. And it could have like you said, like a magical vibe to it. They might even detect ore. They might even detect metals.
Could sing through, yeah.
Like singing, they can see
maybe 5 feet into the walls, and they, it's like, also it's like if you had a party and you were having trouble like connecting with the toggle lights, like if you have a bard who can actually really sing. Like they might be like, pushing the bard around, and then all of a sudden the bard's like, I'm just gonna roll, I'm gonna perform. And you sing, and then they're like, "Oh, yeah, cheer." They all like kind of stop. They put their ales down, and they all like share a moment, and then you're in. Like you're one of them. Like they respect that. Like you don't necessarily have to be like, built like a bard.
It'd be funny if they're like, if the bard performs and they're like, that was beautiful. You can prove yourself a miner, and we'll help you out. Go and find a jewel, and like, facts. Good luck.
Yeah.
Just you. None of your friends get to help you. It's just you.
Yeah.
And the bard's down there, and like, what the?
Yeah. Here's your copper coil. Yeah, will be your buddy to go with.
Yeah, you're bunning.
Yeah. The buddy's like, yeah.
You're dead.
Nice. Thank funny.
Yeah. That big spirit's gonna eat you.
Show up.
The bunny comes out and like does like a little patter on the ground. Like so maybe maybe you can sing, but the drum belly likes the pattern of the axes hitting. So you can still do the like, you don't hit in a like a rhythmic pattern, because that's what attracts the drum belly.
Yeah. Or if like you try
your sing roll or your performance roll and you fail, it could attract a drum belly.
So I'm not a music person, Adam. I know you are.
Yeah.
Is there a type of singing that would kind of match that? So, kind of a rhythmless song, or you know what I mean? Something that is not, there might be a distinct style of singing that they do, this cave singing that is not, made to, keep drum bellies away or something like that, but it's still a way to communicate down here.
I mean, you could have a song. This would be incredibly complicated for me to explain, considering how much I don't know about it. But you could have a song that constantly changes time. So like goes from 4/4 to 4/5 to 5/7. I don't know any of
those sound like real words.
Just like the amount of beats in a measure. So like in all of their sailor songs, they're constantly, which I think is pretty hard to do. Perform, but like we're not gonna have to perform it. So
sorry, I do feel bad for DMs who really want to kind of immerse.
I think about there's a Werner Herzog documentary where it's up in the Arctic, and they're like, there's these they're scientists and they're out on the ice sheet, and they've got a microphone listening, and you hear this sound. It goes. And it seals. And it sounds like a digital, it sounds digital, and yet that seal's doing it. So it could be something that just doesn't have a beat to it. It's like a,
it's like whales.
It's like, a whale song or something like that.
Well, what if it,
that's cool.
What if it is a standard? We can jump on here and actually make this so we don't have to complicate it as much. What if the reason they don't hit their axes at the same time is not because it attracts a drum belly, but because it muffles, like like a drum belly can sneak up on you. Because it's like, if it's like ja ja ja, the drum belly will just match the pace, and then he'll put everyone under a trance. So you never do a beat that the drum belly can match.
That's cool.
And it's less about attraction. It's more about like, this thing's gonna sneak up on you if you get lost in a beat.
That's good. Yeah.
That way,
we're not getting
like this other random.
You're
so
down there, it's like, woo.
This is how you play that at the table. How do you do that? Like if I'm describing, we're in the cave and I'm describing there are miners down here, and is it just describing that like you is the irregular pattern of the pickaxe is hitting stone, is that so weird that it is noteworthy that you point that out? You know, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, how does this actually play out? And so, because you have to then know if that rule is being violated for then a drum belly to emerge.
Yeah, I think we're probably hyperfixating on a thing that's not that important as far as the storytelling.
Sure.
I think maybe you could just mention the fact that like one of the, as you're going in for the first time, whatever minor companions joining you might say something to the effect of like, you never beat on key. Or if you are mining, someone might give you the advice, don't do a beat, you know, because it'll attract your drum belly.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then for the DM to, you know, like maybe the miners will never do it, but for a DM, you might need to make like an intelligence check to remember. Like, you know, like the player might make an intelligence check to remember not to beat on.
Because
you.
that tells me, like, if I heard that rule, you know, if I were at a table, my assumption is everybody down here would know that rule and they're going to adhere to it. And so that means that you're not actually supposed to meet the drum bellies. And now it's actually a tool for the players to say, if they're under attack by something else, they're like, you know, like now they're going to strike a regular
Now
beat.
they've got
Like,
some lore,
yeah, it's that kind of thing. Because, you know,
like something with sand words.
yeah, exactly like that. Yeah.
You don't want to do it, and when you do, you want to do it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I like that.
Yeah. It makes me think like this is kind of like a tip for our viewers, like the difference between, you know, world building for stories and novels, and movies and all that, and then world building for a game.
Yeah.
Like there's really cool stuff that it works in novels, and then or for a movie, and then there's when world building for a game, you know, it's like Ari is great at bringing up like, how does this play out the table?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah. Or like, how does this work in the rules? Like when you're saying like, yeah, this is kind of going off on this tangent.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's cool story stuff.
Yeah. I mean, when I say it's going off on a tangent, in reality, I'm more referencing to the fact that we're also building the town itself.
Yeah.
I'm fixating on a bit of lore about it.
Yeah.
Drumming. In fact,
Well, I just love it. That's why I was like, how do I run that? That's why I was like, okay, so if all these rules exist, it means that the drum belly probably doesn't just show up, and I want it to. So how do I, you know, what is that? That's kind of, that was my thinking.
I mean, you know, if I were to implement this in the game, I might throw an NPC who's just as unfamiliar with the caves.
One of the new recruits.
And then have them accidentally like put it on the party to remind this character to not beat in a pattern. Or
that would actually be a great in our last in little bits here, like a great NPC would be like the new, like I'm thinking of like the trope of like the Boston high society, you know, ninny who comes out like, I'm gonna be a miner, and just does not fit in, fish out of water, and you know, well funded, but you know, is probably gonna die.
Has the best gear.
The best gear, shiny pickaxe.
Maybe maybe this character is a member of AHA and they are looking for a gem.
Yeah,
like maybe gems are just not really sought after here. Like it's the steelwork town. People are after metals. And so it could be that this person's like, I need someone to take me into the caves because I'm looking for a ruby. And they're like, you know, everyone here is like, okay, a ruby? Sure. We feed those things to the spirit. But
right.
Whatever you want, buddy.
Got a stack of them over there.
Exactly.
Or it could be a fossil.
Or a fossil. That's cool.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they're obsessed with the mines because it's all first stage. So they want to go and see how deep does the first stage
They're mapping
go.
it.
They could have like a Philadelphia experiment where there's this thing just fused into the rock. It's like it's like this whole like I don't know, like a 7-Eleven that's just like in the middle of, you know, they're just pickaxing it out of solid granite. It's like, how the heck did that get in there?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. First stage is
that.
weird.
Well, with that,
What the 7-Eleven in granite?
With all of that, I think we will call this episode a quit. I'm pretty happy with where we are. I think this is really fun, a fun town. and feels really unique compared to a lot of the other stuff that we've done.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to build this outside of the podcast. So you're only going to see this, but you can see the full Steelwork town in the book later this year. Thank you so much for joining us. This was Adam, Ari, and myself, and we will catch you next. Oh, wait, you should watch us, watch more episodes. I forgot there's the other parts. You should subscribe, and you should watch more episodes, and you can find us on Spotify.
Oh, really?
And you can find us on Apple
happened.
Music, and you can find us on Amazon.
What?
And iHeartRadio, weirdly.
What?
If you watch this, if you watch this in iHeartRadio, comment down below in the video. I would love to go onto the YouTube channel. If you're listening right now,
Watch it again.
Yes.
Watch it again. Comment, I'm watching this on iHeartRadio. And other places like that. But yeah, we're available. We're
Much
there.
has happened.
We've done it. We made it work.
Wow.
And when I say we, I mean Chris Wilson behind the camera. I did not do absolutely anything. He figured it out for us.
Wow.
Um,
That's cool.
yeah, so we're there. So yeah, watch us there. Follow us on YouTube and join our Discord to hear more about the other Obojima stuff. And we will catch you next time.